The monitors said critical. The doctors said nothing more could be done. And the soldier who had carried her out of the wreckage said one thing: not.
Sergeant First Class Darren Voss had pulled people out of worse situations than this. He told himself that in the corridor outside Medical Bay 3, standing against the wall with his armor still on and someone else's blood still drying on his gauntlets, while the Velnari medical team filed out of the bay in the particular organized quiet of people who have reached a conclusion they don't want to announce. The lead physician, tall, pale gray-skinned, with a specific stillness of a species that processed grief differently than humans, stopped when he reached Voss. The cellular disruption from the energy weapon is beyond our current treatment capacity, he said. Her bioluminescent network, the life system that is unique to her species, is failing at a rate we cannot arrest. We have administered everything our protocols allow. He paused. I am sorry, Sergeant. There is nothing more we can do. Voss had been told that before. He had been told it about a collapsed building in a sector he was not supposed to be in, about a pilot whose survival window the extraction team had calculated at 0, about a situation 3 years ago that had killed 4 people and left him with a scar across his jaw that he didn't think about anymore. He had never found nothing more we can do to be a sentence that ended conversations. He found it to be a sentence that started them. What specifically is failing? He asked. The physician looked at him for a moment. The bioluminescent energy network that runs through her physiology is disrupting at the cellular junctions. It is how her species processes energy, regulates temperature, maintains organ function. When it disrupts past a threshold, the body cannot sustain itself. And your treatments can't address the disruption. Our treatments are calibrated for Velnari physiology, the physician said. Her species, the Ithori, have a fundamentally different cellular architecture. Our protocols are, he paused, insufficient. What would address it? Voss asked. Not your protocols. The actual biological problem. What does the disruption need? Another pause. Longer. The kind of pause that meant the question had been worth asking. Theoretically, the physician said, a sustained stable energy input delivered directly to the primary network junction points would slow the disruption. The network responds to proximate energy fields. But we have no equipment calibrated to Ithori frequencies, and without precise calibration, an energy input would accelerate the disruption, Voss said. Yes. Voss looked at the medical bay door. Through the small window panel, he could see the monitors, the red critical warnings, the flattening vital graphs, the name on the patient record. Lira. She had told him her name 3 minutes after he pulled her out of the wreckage of the Ithori research vessel, one arm around his neck, the bioluminescent lines in her skin already flickering. He had promised her the medical team would help. He walked back into the medical bay. She was looking at the ceiling when he entered. Her pale lavender eyes moved to him when he crossed to the bedside. The bioluminescent lines along her arms and neck were faint now, barely visible, the flickering of something running very low. The doctors said. She began. I know what they said, Voss told her. I'm not done. He pulled a chair to the bedside and sat, and then he did something that the Velnari medical team, watching now through the door window, had not anticipated. He placed both his hands over hers on the bed, removed his gauntlet so that his bare palms were against her skin, and held on. He had no medical training beyond combat first aid. He had no understanding of Ithori physiology beyond what the physician had just told him in a corridor. He had, however, 12 years of combat experience that had taught him that the space between nothing more we can do and the actual end was almost always larger than the people saying it believed, and that the thing most consistently underestimated in that space was the simple, physical fact of someone staying. Talk to me, he said. Lira looked at him. The lavender eyes, still clear, still aware, even as her body ran its systems down, looked at him with the expression of someone trying to calculate something they did not have enough information to calculate. "Why?" she said. "Faint. Conserving. Because you need to stay focused on something outside yourself," he said. "And because I find that people do better when they're not alone. That's not medical. That's just true." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I am a research xenobiologist. I was studying the Colden Vale mineral formations. Alone. Because my team's funding was withdrawn. I have not spoken to anyone who was not a research terminal in 11 days. "That's a long time," Voss said. "Yes," she said. The bioluminescent lines along her arms flickered. Then, almost imperceptibly, one of them held. The physician, watching from the doorway, took one step forward. Voss did not look up. He kept his hands over hers, warm and steady, and he talked about the mission that had brought his unit to this sector, about the mineral formation she had been studying that his team had used as cover positions, about his younger brother who had studied biology and had explained bioluminescence to him once in terms he had mostly forgotten but partially remembered, and the partial memory was, apparently, enough to make Lira's eyes sharpen. "You remember the wavelength theory," she said. "Barely," he admitted. "Tell me what you remember," she said. "All of it. Even the parts that are wrong." He told her. She corrected him. She explained, in the precise, careful way of someone who had spent 11 days alone with research terminals and needed very much to explain something to a person, the actual biology of her light network. How it worked, why it was failing, what the junction points were doing at the cellular level. And as she explained, as she moved from fading to focused, from conserving to engaged, the lines along her arms began, slowly and incrementally, to stabilize. The physician entered the bay 3 hours later. The monitors still showed critical. But the graph lines, which had been flattening, had found a rhythm. Faint and steady, but a rhythm. "This is not medically explicable," the physician said, looking at the display. "No," Voss agreed. "What did you do?" Voss looked at Lira, who had fallen into the first real sleep she had managed since admission. Her bioluminescent lines faint but steady, her hands still.